Welcome to Talking WoW, the podcast where we talk about World of Warcraft, believe it or not. My name is Tom, and today we're going to be doing a bit of dreaming here on Talking WoW as we look back at 10.2, which featured the magnificent Emerald Dream. However, it would be a nightmare if it was just me and Marty here today recording this episode. So we have brought on a guest. We have content creator and streamer, ArchmageSar. Welcome on in to Talking WoW.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
And as mentioned, Marty is here as well.
I mean, those puns alone is a nightmare.
I can't believe you said that. Anyway, let's get on with the show here. And Sar, I think, to get us started here, I think it might be nice just to ask you about what has your journey in Dragonflight been like so far? Because we all have a lot of opinions about Dragonflight. Some people are saying it's the best expansion ever. How has your journey been thus far in the expansion?
It's a good question. I think for me, I did think it was the best expansion ever when I first started in Dragonflight. I wasn't very happy with how Shadowlands went. I was very pleased to come into Dragonflight and see this fresh change of pace. I don't know. The more I talk to, I talk to my partner a lot about these sorts of things. The more I talk to other people who play WoW, I have some conflicting views. It's a good expansion. It's fantastic, but I think it could still do maybe a few things better.
Shared reputation, right? Shared reputation. Could have done better with that.
I would love shared reputation. That would be great.
I know. Why did it come an expansion after that? That's just, ruined the whole expansion there.
I think that's kind of the thing, seeing all the things that are to come, and the further we get into this expansion, you can see the new features being implemented. It's really nice to see that, but I think, I don't know. I'm just talking nonsense at the moment.
That's all right. That's what we do here. That is Talking WoW in a nutshell. I mean, but I know what you're saying, because I think when stuff gets announced at BlizzCon and then you end up looking ahead and being like, well, I wish we had that now, because now it almost makes me not want to play the game, because why would I want to go do transmog runs when I can't unlock all the transmog on all my characters at once? Thank you, Blizzard, for this dilemma. But we've moved through the patches here, and we've gone to the Dragon Isles. We've reunited the Dragonflights, and then we've headed to Avarice, and we've sorted out the black dragons and their daddy issues. And then after all of that, we head finally to the Emerald Dream, and 10.2 brought us into this situation in the game where the New World tree is being grown in the Emerald Dream, Amirdrassil. And finally, Marty, we as players get to go to the Emerald Dream, because is it something that you've wanted since the very beginning of Warcraft?
Oh, I don't know if I wanted it since the beginning of World of Warcraft, but it's definitely something that's been on the to-do list, bucket list. Want to go to the Emerald Dream. Those of us who've read the books have been reading about it for a while. So yeah, wanted to go there. It's off the bucket list.
I thought it was going to be greener. To be honest, they always said you go in there, it's going to be green everywhere.
If I have to nitpick about something, and I know that they cannot do that, but as described, the Emerald Dream should look like how Azeroth would look like without any interference, or without it being broken up in parts and big bits like that. And funny enough, the part of the Emerald Dream that we goes into looks very much like part of the real world. So, small thing there, Blizzard, that you couldn't think about. But I obviously do understand the limitations to that.
Okay, well, we're going to let them off with that, because I don't know about you two, and maybe we can start with Sar here, but my first impressions, stepping through that portal and seeing the dream come to life. I mean, it was a dream. Was it a dream for you, Sar?
It was absolutely stunning. But then on the flip side, the more I explore the Emerald Dream, the more I'm just it's not the best. It is absolutely gorgeous. but I keep bumping into trees whenever I'm flying. It is a problem. Yeah.
That is a problem. It's a problem with all those routes, and dragon riding has made its way into the Emerald Dream as well. There's no shaking that off. And yeah, definitely, the early hours in the Emerald Dream, it was like, oh my God, like the roots on this tree, this is not great. This is not great for flying. But I think you get used to that, don't you, Marty? You're the dragon riding expert here in talking WoW.
Good. I mean, I keep flying around the bloody tree a few times before I realize I need to go like a level up or down or whatever. I've never really figured it out. There's also like a small hole between some branches you could fly in, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of the encampment. Not quite sure. I keep flying around it. So I actually think I'm with Sar on this, that flying around and get to the camp can be some trouble sometimes.
One of the things though, and I don't know if you both noticed this, was, we're talking about dragon riding here, and a lot of people actually do have issues with that. They find it, quite hard to maneuver. It can, cause motion sickness and things like that. And early on in one of the quests, and I actually discovered this totally by accident, but you had to I think fly around and collect some things in the sky, or you had to fly and knock some dragons off or something. And there was actually an NPC you could speak to that would mount you on just like an AI NPC controlled dragon, and it would just fly around and do the objectives for you by itself. And I thought that was actually pretty neat that they put that in, because of what we're saying. Some people have just control issues of their dragon. Some people, haven't learned how to train their dragon at all. But just having little accessibility features like that, I think that's something I noticed early on. I think it's in a few quests as well. So good job on that, Blizzard.
I've been doing that on alts. Just start the event and then go get a cup of tea or something like that, and then come back and then the quest is finished. It's amazing.
I feel like it's almost the way we don't use flight masters anymore. It's just like, okay, well, the flight masters are taking over here. We're giving them a job again. When was the last time you took a flight path, Sar?
Yeah, I have to think about that. It's been quite a while.
Exactly. See what I mean? We're doing those out of a job.
I think I maybe took one to what is it, Iskara, where you do the feast thing.
Oh, Azure. Yeah.
Yeah, I took one down there just because I was feeling a little bit lazy one day. I didn't want to fly all the way down.
I think that's fine. We've got to keep those flight masters doing something, because if we don't, then I don't know, they're gonna walk off, and then we're gonna miss them.
I normally do that as well when I go down there, just because I hate that flight, because it's mainly upwards. So I always just get on the flight path, go get a cup of tea. You see, there's a theme here. But actually, last time I used a flight master was probably an hour ago.
Oh wow! Look at you.
Exactly.
Look at you being relevant.
Almost exactly. So
So yeah, we enter into the dream, and obviously the big narrative here is Farak. Farak doesn't want to burn the tree, Marty. Farak wants to imbue the tree. Is that right? Imbue the tree? That sounds very weird. With fiery nastiness, and basically make the tree his own. And well, we get in there, and Farak, I think, has finally become the ridiculous baddie here, where You've basically got all the aspects, and Farak shows up bellowing, I could deal with you now. However, I'm going to fly off and basically reveal my plan to you, and you can come and stop me from doing that. And I think, Marty, we've talked a lot about Farak, and Farak being, quite a good villain in Dragonflight. Do you think at this point it's started to unravel a little bit, and Farak is just making ridiculous choices and becomes a bit of a, I don't want to say silly, but you know what I mean? Just, it's almost like a cartoon villain at this stage.
I mean, I think it's definitely, there's always those jokes about, a monologuing villain, and then they could, while they're monologuing, they get beaten, and it feels like that's sort of like what's happening here, and I think that's probably a theme for Dragonflight overall as well, that I feel like there's a good story there, but we're moving through it so quickly that we don't really get time to set up all these different characters with like 100%, and all of a sudden one of them is on our side, and the other one turns out to be the villain, and the third one is gone. So I could definitely see some issues that I hope that we won't have going forward.
What do you think, Sar? Do you think Farak's one of the best villains we've had in Warcraft? I mean, that's quite a large question, but do you think Farak's been a good enough villain for Dragonflight? Let's keep the boundaries in place here, Tom.
I think it's a nice change of pace. I mean, if you think about like coming from Shadowlands, the story there was kind of all over the place, and I think it's nice to just have this one villain that we can focus on, and it's really like straightforward motivation. And you can see how he got there and how he's kind of descended into madness. Maybe it's not the best writing, but it is nice and easy to understand, which can be quite refreshing.
Yeah, there's not too much 5D chess involved in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a nice game of snakes and ladders, isn't it? Just, you know what you got to do, you know what you got to go, and you know what you're getting, basically. And I think, probably my issue with 10.2 and Farak was he's always been sort of building up to be this, this great villain. And when he had like Aridacron there and Vironov, it seemed like they were controlling him and actually pointing him in the right direction of what to do. And to be honest, the more I thought about this, now that Aridacron is not there and Vironov has switched sides, you really see, an unhinged Farak, ultimately unhinged Farak with absolutely no guidance or common sense. So in my mind, I'm sort of using that as an excuse for Farak not making the best decisions. There's a part where I think Farak's trying to break through the ward into Amirdrassil, and he says something like to one of his like major domos, like, you want me to use my power to break in here? You do it. And then, 5 minutes later, Farak is using his own power to break the ward, which, he could have done a bit earlier, right? So it's just those little inconsistencies, I think, that sometimes makes you, raise a question. Is this just what we should be used to with these kind of villains?
I mean, I one thing that I do like, though, is because we didn't mention him briefly, was Iridicon. I do like that we actually do follow him as well, and he's being set up for something, further down the line, because I think that is something that I especially has been, wanting, that it's not just, let's go into this new expansion, get introduced to all these new characters, and then kill them all off in one expansion. I like that does something for the future as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, there's no real mention of Iridacron anymore, but that's gonna pop up again at a later time, I suppose. And the other hand there that we mentioned, Vironov, we actually got to do a few more quests and get to know, a bit more about Vironov, which I thought was really cool, because Vironov like turn-coded on Iridacron and Farak at one point, and it felt like it was maybe too soon, but I feel like, I don't know about you, Marty, did you feel like the quests in 10.2 sort of fleshed that out a little bit, and maybe they're like Vironov's motives for turning against Farak as well?
I mean, yeah, but it's nice to follow her and get to know her a little bit better, because obviously we only had 2, I believe, cinematics, where one where she's close to turning, and then a second one where she actually turned to our side. So it was actually nice to get to know her a little bit more, and that's like, but it again sort of plays into what I said earlier, that it definitely feels like the story is a little bit on the lighter side, and I would have personally loved to just before she actually turned and to our side, that we actually got to interact with her a little bit more, to get to know her then instead of after. But it's definitely nice to do some quest and see what the character is about.
Yeah, and it's it's been a journey that we've sort of been with these primal incarnates, and we didn't release them from the the vault in the first raid, but we've seen them. We've seen that, like you say, Sar, that the simplicity of this story is we've got to see them be released in the first raid. The story's continued on, and now it feels like we are just like rounding that off nicely. And where we go from here, I don't know, but it feels like just when you look at Dragonflight as a start and an end, does it feel like they've actually achieved that in an expansion? Like they've actually told a story this time?
Yeah, I think so my take on Dragonflight as a whole is that I think they're trying to make up for the mistakes made in like Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands so that they can start fresh with the War Within. And I think Dragonflight has been a really nice way of doing that because it is just that nice, simple story from start to finish. I hope it continues to be like that, because I know this is going to be the last raid, but there are future patches planned, I believe. So I hope that whatever comes next to kind of bridge that gap between this and the War Within, I hope that it continues to make sense and be nice and simple and easy to follow.
Yeah, and I actually think you hit on a key thing there is almost like a reset of just, yes, this is starting something, but it's, we're wrapping up the story here, but it is starting something. And that's how I've actually felt about this patch, because one of the, I guess, the big talking point, and let's go there, let's address that elephant in the room, where we had a cinematic here where, it's the tide turns, Farak is facing off with Amirdrassil. He's got that legendary axe, Marty, that, you're going to re-roll a warrior for. And he's just about to end Amirdrassil. He's just about to finish it. He's about to take Amirdrassil out, and suddenly, was it Thrall's axe appears and, hits the axe, and Farak looks up, and there we see, everyone. We see almost the whole of Azeroth. We see all the like renowned factions that we've helped, the Tuskar, the Nithin. We see Jaina, we see Thrall, we see Turalian. Did we see Turalian there as well? I think we did. And we have this moment where Amirdrassil basically just says, I'm not alone. The whole of Azeroth is standing against you. And there's been a lot of talk about this, of being like ridiculous, cheesy. Sar, I want to know, have you seen that cinematic? What did you feel like?
I have seen it. I watched it last night in preparation for this because I figured it would come up. I do think it's cheesy. The fact that half the people that are stood there can't really do anything because it's very obviously a ranged encounter that's going on, and like you see Turalian just stood there with his sword, and he can't do anything really. It's cheesy, but it is nice to see that everyone's there and kind of coming back around to that, because we haven't really got to know what they've been doing this expansion yet. It is nice to have everyone back in one place.
What about you, Marty? I know you've got some strong opinions about this cinematic.
Oh, really? I didn't know I had strong opinions about that. You know what? I like cheesy. I thought it was cheesy, but I was just eating all the cheese while I was drinking some wine. Oh, I like it when everyone is coming together like that, because you could even say that the Avengers, when it happened there, that was cheesy as well. But it fit the story that they wanted to tell, and this one fits the story that they tried to tell with Dragonflight as well. And you know what? I'm there for it. I like it. That's my strong opinion, that there should be room for some cheese as well sometimes.
My first impression, I thought it was ridiculous. I was just like, this is so silly. Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe this moment of like Farak and Amirdrassil is ending like this. However, after that cinematic, you go into a quest where you have to take, is it Cenarius's buff or something? And you have to like blow a horn beside, various allies and get them, inspired. And actually at that point, I was very much in love with what had just happened, because like I mentioned, you saw all the, the Tuskar were there. They were fighting. The Nithin, I totally forgot about the Nithin. The Nithin were above ground and they were fighting. They were helping. Thrall was there, even Cenarius was there, and a great little moment. And they've managed to put like little like fun things in 10.2 where you have this Cenarius is buff, and you walk over to Cenarius, you blow the horn, and Cenarius is like, well, thanks for that. That's my own buff. I didn't really need it, but thank you anyway.
I think that it's also like, because that's such, seeing all these characters coming back together is such a heartfelt moment. That's a very positive, high note that we are getting to. I don't know, Tom, if you saw the quest before that, the quest that leads up to this, you start out at the camp where Amirdrassil is there and basically being told that she needs to stay at the camp because, she needs to heal the wounded. And you do some quests, you come back, you see that there are some injured people there, and there's blood on the ground. Amirdrassil is healing them. And then you get some new quests to go out and you come back, and now there's more people who's wounded, some dead, and there's blood everywhere. And yeah, and when I was playing through that, I was noticing that I was saying that, this is how war would be, when you are fighting, someone will get hurt. So I do feel like when you put those things next to each other, you're working through all this. Oh, this is looking, like shit. Are we actually going to get through this? And then you get to that very heartfelt, little bit cheesy moment afterwards that, yes, we did do it. I think when you put that next to each other, it actually, balances out a little bit more, perhaps.
That's a really good point, to be honest, because, like, I just watched that cinematic on its own, but I'm sure in the context of everything else that's going on around it, it does make a lot more sense. It's hard to judge something when you've just seen the one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like just watching that on its own, you need the context of where that's being dropped. And again, even though I was experiencing it in game, I still was very much like, oh, like really, this is where they're going. But the more I think about it, it's like, okay, we're reintroducing these characters again. We've got Jaina, we've got Thrall, we've got everyone here, and it's sort of that refresh point, I think, where yes, Dragonflight has been a almost a self-contained story, and now it will just serve as it wasn't even chapter 1, I don't think. I think it was more just like, this is the prologue chapter. It just gets you somewhere where we need to be now for the war within. And I think, in that regard, it served a purpose. I'm sort of comparing it to Final Fantasy XIV has a beach expansion coming out where apparently they've dealt with all the big threats and they're just going to chill out for, an expansion. There'll probably be some people up to no good. But I feel like Dragonflight maybe was just World of Warcraft's beach expansion where they got to have a bit of fun. They got to, not have a completely world-ending threat. Although one might say Farak controlling the world tree wouldn't have been good. However, when you look at like what we've had in the past with the old gods and, someone trying to stick a sword in the planet, that's pretty bad, right? So it definitely feels like the threat level was dropped a little bit in regard. And I don't know, like, how do you feel, Sar, about just that, I suppose? How do you feel about those threat levels? Like, do you always want something so dramatic, or are you happy with like these smaller narratives?
I am very happy with this. I mean, also the thing that I first loved about Dragonflight was playing through and getting to the little whelp daycare. I absolutely adored that because it's so nice to see just like a normal everyday thing where we've been going from like villain to villain and old gods and all of that. It's really nice to just take a step back and go, I can take care of some little baby dragons. This is awesome.
Yeah, and that's like really important as well, because it's like, obviously, nurturing those whelps, and they're going to be like the future of, the future leaders and such. Like, I think, it is nice to just get that little break away from, the horrors of, like you say, Marty, like that quest, you saw it. Not everyone's going to see what you saw there, but little things like that can have an impact. And it's like, yes, this was a battle, this was a war, and that can be tiring when that's all you're ever doing is you're constantly swimming upstream. And I think Dragonflight has had some nice downtime moments, even in the Emerald Dream, where you've got Farak flying around, constantly reminding you that he's a threat. You can go out and plant some seeds, can you? You can grow some trees and head off on the super bloom and things like that. And I think just in general it's been a nice vibe in the Emerald Dream, despite the fact that there's a war going on there too.
I have to say, I can't even begin to explain how much time I wasted just running around and planting seeds rather than getting on with the campaign quest. It took me so long to get onto it. I was having so much fun.
And I mean, I totally get it, because that is what I've been doing as well on multiple characters as well, where story quest, screw that. I need to plant some seeds over here and get some stuff done. But I really think that one thing that we've seen a little bit in this expansion as well, that sometimes you need to see things, especially the cinematics. You need to see them in that context, because I think we had it in the previous patch as well, where we saw the cinematic after the raid, and then we were like, was that it? But when I actually got in there, played through the raid, and you finished that off, you get a new quest afterwards that leads you back in. And then there's some more, some quests, some more things happening that actually, rounds everything off very, very nicely. So when you take all that in context, then it works really, really well. And I feel like the ending to this patch they're doing the same thing. If you haven't, played through and killed the last boss, I don't think you'll get that last quest yet. And that there actually is another quest. So I think a lot of people are looking at that last cinematic from the raid and being like, hey, is that it? But then there's actually like a whole quest line afterwards that sort of like ends everything off very, very nicely. So I don't know. Do you feel like that's a good thing or a bad thing that the cinematics might not tell everything?
I absolutely hate it when you have to play through the raid to get to the full story. Mostly because I struggle to get a raid group together. I hate pugging because I don't like playing with strangers. I like playing with my friends. But then to get all of my friends available at the same time for a raid is really awkward. So to then have to play through the raid to get the story, it becomes really, really difficult for me to like fully understand what's going on sometimes. I would much rather have a way to kind of skip the raid whilst also retaining that story, because I don't think raids should be kind of forced on players.
We don't have time to go into the end cinematic in Amirdrassil. That would be a whole another episode. But I mean, I think it's safe to say it was a bit light. It was a bit light when you look back at something, like the Fall of Arthas or something like that there, where you got this whole, you saw Arthas die, you got to see the new Lich King being born, so to say, and you got a lot of dialogue there to give you some perspective of what's going on. The Dragonflight one was, basically, hey, we're all friends here, and it's all good. And it was just very much like, I don't know if that's satisfactory. You feel like you'd maybe want to see Farak in that as well, since that's who they were fighting. But again, maybe a discussion for another day. But yeah, the Emerald Dream has been an experience. There's a lot to go through there as well, and I know myself, I'm still going to be spending a bit of time in there farming renown. I didn't do the optimized way to get my renown to 20, so I would only have to spend 2 days in the Emerald Dream. I'm very much enjoying the landscape enough to farm out some dailies and stay in there for a while, because it's not going anywhere. We're still quite a little while away from the next expansion.
I think I'm just in the same place as you. I have a lot to do still. I've had a really buzzing November, so I've still got a lot of things to do in game, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes.
That's what we thought. But what about you, listener? What do you think of 10.2 in the Emerald Dream? Are you having a wonderful time, or is it, to reuse this pun for the third time in this episode, a nightmare? You can let us know in the places that you do that. And we want to thank ArchmageSar for joining us on the show today. And we'll have all of Archmage's links in our show notes. But thank you so much for being here today, Sar.
Thank you for having me. It's been honestly amazing.
I've been Tom. That's been Marty. That's been ArchmageSar. And we've been talking WoW.
Now it's time to go plant some seeds.
Thanks for tuning in, champion! Did you enjoy this episode of Talking WoW? If so, why not drop a review on your podcast catcher of choice, or leave us a comment? You can find Talking WoW on Twitter or YouTube over at Talking WoW. Hope to see you again soon!